Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Cara Van Malsen. I'm with AVP, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to track 2 of the Festival of Dam 2023. Thank you so much for joining. I'm just going to go through a quick bit of housekeeping before we begin. During the session, we'd really encourage you to add your questions, and you can do that using the Q&A tab that's on the right side of your screen. There's also a live chat option there that you can use to converse with fellow attendees and get the conversation going. If you do have questions, technical issues for the Henry Stewart team, please use the chat bot that's in the lower right-hand side of your screen. And now I am delighted to introduce Charlotte Brown from Clinique, and she will be sharing her presentation, Why We Decided on a MAM, and the decision steps taken to design new and efficient workflow management. Over to you, Charlotte.
Thanks, Cara. Hi, everyone. I'm Charlotte Brown. I'm the Director of Digital Asset Management at Clinique, and I'm also a new instructor at the Rutgers teaching successful DAM implementation. So today's presentation is about why Clinique has decided to go with a MAM system and how we're going to use it to drive new efficient workflows. So just a little bit about Clinique. Clinique is one company within the Estée Lauder company's portfolio. There's about 20 companies under Estée Lauder, and the companies range from everything from skincare to cosmetics. We have beauty and fragrance, so it's a wide range of products. And just a little bit about Mrs. Estée Lauder. She was the niece of a Hungarian chemist, and from a young age, she was trained in the art of face and creams. She founded Estée Lauder companies in 1946, and the first store that Estée Lauder was sold in was Saks Fifth Avenue. So a few fun facts about Clinique. Clinique was started in 1968 from a Vogue article that was titled, Can Great Skin Be Created? The magazine had Mia Farrow on the cover. And another fun fact is that around every 7.5 seconds, a dramatically different moisturizer lotion is sold globally. And also another fun fact is this was probably my first skincare product growing up. As many of my friends, it was also their first product. Clinique is sold in 107 countries worldwide. And in 2020, Clinique publicly announced that actress Emilia Clarke would be our first global ambassador. And many of you may know Emilia Clarke from her leading role in Game of Thrones. So before I go into the MAM platform, I just wanted to go over our DAM system. So we do have a DAM system which each of our companies uses. It is our platform for all of our final global marketing assets. Clinique has around 2,100 users that are accessing all of our final global content from this platform. The content can then be searched, shared, and distributed to creative teams, our local markets, agencies, and our distributors. And this content is created to drive sales, consumer engagement, and brand growth. A few of our asset types that we have currently on the DAM are key visuals. We have videos, social content, in-store. We have guidelines. So we have so much content on the DAM, but it's all our final retouched content that can then be distributed globally. So our use case for implementing a MAM system, just wanted to go over what our future state and our content ecosystem that we're working to design. And it's to manage Clinique's end-to-end creative workflow. We want to develop an ecosystem of integrated platforms and tools to support Clinique through every step of the content creation. And by implementing a streamlined workflow and technology, we will drive faster turnaround times throughout the creative process. We really want to drive content reuse and user adoption that will ultimately help to support our sales and customer engagement. So I started at Clinique around 2 years ago. So about a year of work had already been done when I was handed over this project. And we worked to develop what the background and an overview of what was happening and why we needed this platform. So currently we have around 100 plus hard drives that are sitting in file cabinets at our office. They're at homes, they're on people's desktops, or on their desks. And it's funny because as I was coming to this conference room today, I walked past those filing cabinets where all of these hard drives are stored. And a majority of these contents on these hard drives are our raw, still, and video content. So this is unretouched content that just came from the shoot. Our hard drives are loosely tracked with an Excel spreadsheet, just detailing the shoot location. So we don't really have like a central system for archiving these hard drives. And we do have vendors that require hard drives to work on, and then we have to send them sometimes our one copy that we have. And as you know, hard drives can fail very easily, and if they're not backed up, we can lose our content. And with our ever-changing, ways of working and adapting to the hybrid model, we're working from home, so these hard drives, are not easily accessible anymore. And so we are recognizing that we needed to adopt to a new best practice to protect and increase the accessibility of these assets. And our use case is we have explored enabling the media asset management platform to support our Clinique creative team with transferring these large video and still assets from shoots. And plus, we want to securely archive our content to drives and really streamline the creative end-to-end workflows. And before I move on to some additional use cases and how we're implementing our MAM, I just wanted to take a moment just to go over what the difference between DAM and MAM is and how we're planning to use both platforms in that ecosystem I was just describing. Our DAM platform will continue to be our central platform for all of our global final content that's retouched and edited. We have a lot of content on there that is for global use, and then it's also adapted into layouts and videos. So we'll continue to have that content on the DAM. And this is a platform where all of our users can access. So on our DAM system, Clinique has around 2,100 user accounts. And we wanted our MAM system to be the central platform for all of our work in progress and raw content. So this is content that has not been retouched and we just want to make sure that the right people have access to this content. And in its final stage, our MAM will be used to transfer content from sets to the Clinique creative team, really to drive the creative workflows from the selects process to the approvals and editing. And the MAM system will have a limited access of users that can have access to this content just because it is not unretouched. And in going into who should have access to the MAM versus the DAM, we have around 35 users. So you can see the difference between the DAM, which is 2,100 users, and our MAM will have 35 users. The other reasons we've decided to go with the MAM system is because the platforms that we were looking at also offer additional creative technology where it allows us to have a rating system. We can annotate and write feedback on assets. So it just gives us more creative tools to help us when we are editing the content. And also the pricing structure and storage structure is different between our DAM and our MAM. So there is more cost savings in going with a media asset management platform. So I always love asking myself this question when I'm going into implementing any platform or any new workflow is like, what are we trying to solve with them? And especially what are we trying to solve with the MAM? So this is like our top 5 key points of what we want to solve with implementing a MAM and what we want it to solve. And then everything else is like a nice to have. So we want to centralize transferring of content from the photo shoots to a cloud-based storage solution. Without a MAM, it can take us 3 to 4 days to transfer content from a shoot. After the shoot with the MAM system, our digital tech on set can upload all of our content to a cloud-based storage solution. So it will save us a few days, and that's really going to drive a faster turnaround time to get the content up on the DAM to then distribute to our markets. We wanted to implement a platform that is a cloud-based storage solution for all of that raw content and eliminating hard drives. We also have content at agencies on share drives. We have hard drives and content at people's homes. So it is that one central platform for the right people to have access to the content. We want to drive faster turnaround times from the time that the content is created through final editing. And we want to also drive a faster, more content usage. So with the MAM platform, we are hoping to use more of the content that we are shooting. So this way, it's not just, we take what we need and then it lives on a hard drive. It allows our creative teams to then go back and look at the shoot and see if there's any additional content that they want to use. And it's a platform to support our creative retouching and editing workflows. So we made a list of what our platform had to have in terms of the requirements. So we knew that we wanted it to support transferring raw files. We want to easily access this work in progress content for our creative teams. It's a great platform to archive our shoots. Cold storage was also very important to us to have a platform that could support both active and cold storage. So just an example, active storage would be any content from the past 2 seasons, and then we could move that onto cold storage. So trying to also be very savvy of how we're using the storage, because that also drives pricing. We wanted to have a platform where we could import content that has the embedded metadata. So our digital tech on site can add in that primary metadata. And when we import the content, we will have the primary metadata. And it's also just a best practice always to have metadata embedded into the file. Metadata tagging is also important to us to make sure that we are tagging this content, especially with our usage rights when it has a model in it or a photographer. We wanted to be able to download the original asset, but also renditions. So if it's for an FPO, we have that ability to download maybe a low res with a watermark on top of it. Easily distributing the content for editing. Enable a selects and ratings workflow. This is new to us. So my vision for implementing this workflow is that we'd have 1 star or we go through a rating system and you could either do stars or colors. So our primary content would be meeting the immediate needs. So that would be priority and that would be what's edited first. And then we could do a broader second round edit. This is anything that can be used in different platforms like social media, that is different aspect ratios. This would be having this content rated is also going to help our creative teams to know what they can use, what's been used, what can be used. And this is just a nice way so they don't need to, message somebody. It's already been pre-approved. And then we could also do like a 3-star broader edit, anything that's still usable, and then remove any of the strobe misfires, any of the content that we don't need. And just because we are very conscious of storage and just knowing that over time for how much content we're creating, it all adds up. And then what I'm most excited for are data and analytics to know how the content is being used. It's going to be so beneficial to know how our content is performing in the MAM system, how much content we are using from a shoot, and then also compare that to our analytics from our DAM. So it's really going to tell us a story of how content is performing. And then this is also going to drive how we're creating content. Are we creating too many assets and only using 5 or 10%? We are very excited to start to see numbers and really know the story of what we're creating, what we're using, and how that's going to be adapt and change our workflows. And then also integration into other ELC platforms. So having a MAM system that can easily feed into our DAM system, our DAM to feed into PIM, and then all of our other platforms and workflow platforms is going to be essential as we're building this ecosystem of integrated platforms. So I've mapped out what our current end-to-end creative workflow looks like. And from steps 3 to 5, this shows how the MAM system is going to support our creative end-to-end workflow. So everything with the red asterisk is where the MAM is going to support us in our workflow. So once the content is created, we can have, or as it's being created, we can have that embedded metadata attached to the content. It's going to help us drive faster turnaround time. So it will be a platform for content to be transferred to. And then from there, our creative teams can go in and select, rate the content, and drive faster approvals. In the MAM platform, we can have a centralized platform, or it will be the centralized platform for having, being able to provide feedback on and editing notes. So this way, those notes are in emails or on Word doc or PDFs. It's in one central location. And again, the right people have access to those notes. And then it goes into essentially like business as usual, where it will go into retouching, and then be transfer from the MAM to the DAM, and then DAM will our users will be able to distribute the content, localize it, and then it feeds into our expired workflow. So I thought this would be a great slide to wrap up with, which is, what are the steps it takes to implement a MAM system? This is one of the checklists I also use for when I'm implementing a DAM platform, or maybe an additional platform that I'm working on. But I think that this is a great step-by-step of what it takes to successfully implement a platform, whether it's MAM or a DAM. But it really is to spend time developing your use case, why you need the platform, and really vocalize it within your team or your company of what the use case is, what are the issues that you're experiencing, and what you hope that your MAM platform will solve. And then start to talk to users, do discovery sessions, try and meet with everybody to really understand what their workflow is, what's working well, what isn't working, and how this platform can support them in their day-to-day workflow, and document those user journeys. I think that's so essential, that this platform is really going to support many different teams. And then from there, you can outline what the end-to-end workflow looks like, create a list of requirements. What are your must-haves, your primary, and then what are the nice-to-haves? Most important, secure funding and budget for the platform. And then I always suggest, if you have a budget, to partner with consultants. You can also have consultants too, within the platform that you're going to enable. Always partner with your IT and procurement team. When we were going through this process, we worked very closely with our IT team when we were doing our RFP. I was looking at these platforms, with one vision of what I wanted to solve, and IT was also able to look at it from a different lens. And this just made sure that we were looking at the right platforms, procurement to help with negotiating, making sure that our SOW was correct. And then if you do have either a DAM team or a librarian services agency that you're using, start to think about how they're going to use this platform so you can have governance in it. Research platforms, put together your RFI, your RFP, and your SOW. And then once you have all of that, then you can move over to developing your MVP, what you absolutely need for go live. And then, develop what you want for the post go live and what the next year looks like. I think that's so essential as you're building a platform. And then develop your change management plan. At Clinique, we didn't have a MAM system, so change management was so essential to create as we are thinking about how people are going to be implementing or using this platform versus their day-to-day. So change management was very important. And then a migration strategy. We have those 100 hard drives. What are we going to do with all of that content? So it's taking what's priority, what's most important for our users to easily access, which would be likely within our content that we've created within the last 2 years or seasons, to have up on the MAM platform. And then you can launch your platform. When you launch a platform, I always recommend to have user training and onboarding, office hours, and build out resources. So user guides, one or very short training videos also helps, and really communicate the platform, because it is an exciting platform. It is really going to support your teams. And I try and build some excitement when I'm implementing a new platform. And I also think the governance model is so important because you can launch the platform, but then what happens on day two? So that's where you can utilize your DAM librarian services team, or if you're using an agency, and they can just make sure that the content that's being uploaded by the digital techs or the creative teams is following a governance model. And then your post-go live support of where users can continue to receive help. Maybe you can have a ticketing system, but I think that having like a Q&A and engaging with users is really important to make sure that they are receiving the support that they need, and that they can also raise a ticket if there's an issue with the platform. So with that, I'm going to switch it over to Kara, who's been monitoring our Q&A.
Great. Thank you so much, Charlotte, for that wonderful presentation. We have had a lot of questions coming in, so I hope to get to all of them, but let me just start with where are you now in this implementation process with the new MAM, and where do you hope to be a year from now at the next Festival of DAM?
Yeah, that's a great question. We've had a few setbacks, so we are still working on implementing the platform with the right vendor. So once we have our vendor secure, we will, I think in a year, hopefully be fully onboarded. I have all of the content ready to be migrated. I have all the user lists. I have everything ready to go. So hopefully in a year, we will be in that post go live state and post MVP.
Awesome, thank you. We did have some questions on the topic of change management, which you emphasized as critical to the success of a new system like this. I know you're not quite at the point where they're actually using it, but Marcy asked how users are acclimating to the MAM for work in progress. Maybe you can share what your plan is for that, and how you're hoping that you'll be able to get them on board with that work in process part of this.
So change management, I think, is so important because you only have sometimes just like a small window to grab people's attention. I've implemented a MAM platform at previous companies I've worked with. And typically what we've done there is developed comms. And well, first, it really started with those user journeys and reaching out and documenting and working with them to see what they're doing now. And documenting how they're working, and then doing like check-ins throughout the process. So this way you're keeping them up to date, but it comes down to communication. I do countdown to launch, and then it's user training, and then not just doing like a broad user training, but creating training sessions where you have your power users. Those are going to be users that are going to be uploading to the platform versus your end users that are more the creative teams that are just going to be accessing the content to use in their layouts and really build out our campaigns. And I think there you can go into more details of what each user needs. But when I've implemented these MAM platforms, there hasn't been a platform before. As we're in DAM, typically we're going from DAM 2.0 to 3.0, so they always have something to compare it to. So this is a really nice way to introduce a new platform, work with them. What we do today, we don't have to do tomorrow, so taking their feedback. But change management is usually down to communication and user training.
Yeah, great. Thanks so much. And I love that idea of the countdown to launch and keeping that ticker going so people know what to expect and when. Thanks. Another question Libby asked about the integration between the DAM and the MAM, and I know this is still a work in progress. What is planned? Is it going to be automated publishing from MAM to DAM? And what would you consider to be the source of truth for your company?
Yeah, that's something that we were looking into. So the single source of truth, all of the content would actually live on the MAM system. So after the content's been retouched, we still want that content to live on the MAM system and then being pushed to the DAM. We do have to look into what the frequency of that would look like, but I've been told in certain platforms it can just be a button. So once that content has been uploaded to the MAM, it's in its final retouch state, essentially you can push a button, it feeds into our DAM system, and that's when we would add in what I consider like the secondary metadata, that our DAM system has a custom metadata model, and then we would tag it with some additional metadata and then publish it to our front end of the DAM, and that's where users will continue to access the content and distribute and share it.
Great, thank you. Thanks for that. We have a question about, and again, knowing you're still in this process, from Emily, but it's how are you anticipating handling MAM uploads from people's homes? Are you concerned about any internet bandwidth issues working against them from there?
Yeah, that was essential when we were going through our RFP with our vendors. And that's why I partnered with IT. So that was something that was one of our main requirements was around speed. Just knowing that people are going to be transferring content from on location, on sets, and these could be out in an environmental set, or they could be in a photo studio. They could be at people's homes in different countries where speed can be very slow. So when we were looking at the vendors, our IT team had a list of requirements, and we really vetted the vendors based off of those requirements. And that's essential that it is fast. And there's many of the vendors have additional plugins that you can buy to ensure that the speed is fast, just because our video files are very heavy. And this was our main use case of why we needed a MAM, was really to solve the transferring time.
Yeah, I know it's a really common and difficult issue. We had a question from one attendee who wanted to know what the size of your largest video asset in the cloud. So maybe you can speak to that issue of file sizes that you're dealing with and how you're tackling.
Yeah,
those.
I don't know individually, but I'll tell you that they're getting bigger and bigger, these files, especially the final files with the CGI that we're putting into it. When we first did the scope, we had around over 400 terabytes of content, and that was from 2 years ago. So I'm sure we have doubled that or even tripled that in terms of the amount of content that we've created. We are creating these larger and larger toolkits that can be around sometimes 40 gigs, and that's all of the videos that or all of even some still images and video images that go into making essentially like one campaign ad. So they are very large and heavy, and I can only imagine from the photo shoot how large they're getting. But this is also so important when we have the MAM is really looking at like our first quarter and our first year of it's going to start to give us analytics of how much content we are creating, because right now we have estimates and it's changing depending on the season, but it is getting bigger. We know that. So I think analytics is really going to help us see how much content we're creating. And it's going to be very helpful to know, because also with the MAM platform, you are paying an active and cold storage. So we also need to make sure that what we're building and putting up on the MAM is also scalable.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, very quickly, because we have about 2 minutes left, I'm going to ask one more question from the attendees. Paul would like to know, how long was your search for the right MAM tool?
So it started right before I joined Clinique. I want to say that it was around 6 months that my predecessor was looking for a platform. When I joined Clinique, we had a list of under 10 vendors. And then from there, we were able to put them into a rating system and then move forward with the next steps. So it did take quite a while. And then also once you start to implement your platform, working with procurement and IT, that can take another, potential 6 months.
Mm-hmm. And then the contracting in the middle of those two maybe takes a little time.
Yes.
Great. Thank you so very much, Charlotte. It's been really wonderful hearing about this journey, and I hope we'll get to hear some updates maybe next year or at another Henry Stewart Dam event. I think that's going to be our time for now. So I just wanted to let you all know that are here attending that track 2 will resume at 2 o'clock Eastern time. So we hope to see you back here then when we'll be hearing from Bissell Home Care on how to deal with difficult dam users. So you won't want to miss that. Hope to see you real soon. Thank you so much, Charlotte.
Thank you.